The first time she ignored my no trespassing sign. I figured it was an honest mistake. The second time, she rolled down her tinted window and, without a trace of irony, proclaimed it was her right to use the most direct route to the highway. By the third time, as her gleaming white Range Rover barreled down my private, dusty access road, I knew this wasn't just a neighborly misunderstanding. This was a feud, and I had a Karen on my hands. Seriously? I muttered to myself, the hot air thick with the scent of sagebrush and her arrogant exhaust fumes. Doesn't she read? My ranch, 30 acres of hard-won peace and quiet, was my sanctuary. It was a place of work, but it was also the place where I could breathe, where the only sounds were the wind rustling through the tall grass and the distant lowing of cattle. Then came Karen, who lived in the manicured, cul-de-sac-infested Homeowners Association community 2 miles away. She saw my land not as a living, breathing thing, but as a dirty, inconvenient shortcut, an obstacle between her and her next yoga class or overpriced coffee run. The first few times I tried to be polite, waving my hands and gesturing to the faded sign that had been there for 20 years. But she'd just speed up, leaving a plume of red dust in her wake, a cloud that tasted of her absolute disregard. It was infuriating. I'd stand there, hands on my hips, watching her disappear, feeling the heat from the sun and the slow simmer of my own frustration. What's wrong with people? I'd sigh, the sound lost in the vastness of the open range. She had the audacity to call me unneighborly from her SUV, as if my property was her personal racetrack. The real conflict began when I finally confronted her face to face. I'd parked my beat-up Ford F-150 across the road, a big, imposing wall of steel and rust. When she pulled up, she didn't even slow down until she was forced to. "Excuse me," she huffed, her voice tight and impatient. "I'm in a hurry." Her eyes, shielded by designer sunglasses, scanned my worn clothes with a kind of pitying contempt. I felt a knot tighten in my gut. "This is private property," I said, my voice as steady as I could make it. "You can't come through here." She let out a laugh that was more of a scoff. "Oh, please, this isn't a road? I've been driving it for weeks. It's an eyesore, frankly." My jaw dropped. An eyesore? My land? My heart pounded in my chest, a rhythm of pure indignation. "This is a working ranch," I shot back, a flash of heat rising in my cheeks. "And you're trespassing." She just rolled her eyes, pulled out her phone, and said, "I think I'm going to have to call the police on you. You're harassing me." That's when I knew. The conversation was over. Logic, reason, and respect meant nothing to her. This wasn't just about land. It was about power, and she was going to prove she had it. The smell of her car's leather interior, a stark contrast to the sweat and dirt of my work, seemed to mock me. She was right about one thing. The police did show up. They told me they couldn't do anything about her inconvenience, but they could warn me about obstructing a public thoroughfare. Public thoroughfare. The rage boiled inside me. That's when I started to think differently. I'm a third-generation rancher, but what people didn't know was that I'd studied civil engineering for 2 years before my old man got sick and I had to come home. I knew a thing or two about soil stability and load-bearing capacity. So, after a long, restless night, a new plan formed in my mind. It was intricate, a work of art, a beautiful act of revenge rooted in science. I started early, before the sun was even fully in the sky, using my small tractor to work a specific section of the road. It wasn't about making a hole or a ditch. That was too obvious, too easily fixed. No, this was about creating a trap, a meticulously engineered failure. I spent hours tilling the soil, aerating it, and mixing in some extra mulch and compost I'd been saving. I was creating a section of the road that, to the naked eye, looked no different than the rest. It was a subtle, brilliant act of sabotage. Felt good. the low rumble of the tractor against my boots, the sweet, earthy smell of the freshly tilled ground. This wasn't destruction. This was an investment in a different kind of lesson. The day came. I saw her coming from a mile away, a beacon of self-importance cutting through the stillness. My breath hitched in my throat. This was it. I watched from the porch, a coffee cup in my hand, as her Range Rover hit the trap. The front tires went in first, the wheels spinning uselessly as they found no traction in the newly softened earth. The car's computer, likely sensing the loss of grip, kicked in with a guttural whir. But it was useless. The vehicle, a half-ton of modern convenience, simply sank, nose first, into the soft, yielding ground. I saw her brakes slam, and then the car came to a dead stop, tilted at a ridiculous angle, a monument to her hubris. She opened the door and the scene that followed was pure cinematic gold. She stepped out, one foot sinking almost ankle-deep into the dirt. A strangled cry escaped her lips. Her perfectly styled hair was ruffled by the sudden wind, and her white pants were now stained with the deep red of my land. She started screaming, a high-pitched, indignant wail that echoed across the pasture. I could see her on the phone, gesturing wildly, her face a mask of furious disbelief. But she was in the middle of nowhere. No one was coming to tow a car that deep in the muck. Her shouts were just her own voice, and the only audience was me. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in fiery orange and purple, I walked slowly down my road. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, watching her as she finally, defeated, began the long, muddy walk back toward the highway, her expensive shoes ruined, her pride utterly shattered. The last rays of sun caught the dust she kicked up, and for the first time, it didn't taste of her arrogance, but of my land, and a peace that had been hard-won. Some people need a sign, but some people just need to learn the hard way that a person's boundaries aren't just polite suggestions. They're the fences that keep the world honest.